How do you create a magnificent magic system in your story that will pizzang everybody who reads it? This is 5 tips on how to create the best magic system that is possible to ever create. Yes. But if you're new here and you love stories and storytelling tips, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell, and I'll keep you updated with future videos. Oh, I'm so excited for this because I love magic systems, because you can do all sorts of crazy stuff with them. There's no limitations. Well, there is if you include limitations in the magic system, but I'll talk about that a bit later. The first tip is to decide whether you should make it hard or soft. Ooh, hard or soft? I don't know! Basically, a hard magic system is one that has set rules that govern the magic, and these rules are very fixed and set, and the reader knows what they are, and the protagonist learns how to use the magic by learning about these rules that govern the magic system. Examples of this include Mistborn, the Kingkiller Chronicles, and yeah, that's basically it. But soft magic systems are basically the opposite, where the magic is vague and you don't really know what causes what to happen, and there might be rules to it, but the reader doesn't really know how it works. For example, Lord of the Rings or the Chronicles of Narnia, because there's definitely magic, but the reader doesn't quite know, how Gandalf actually performs that magic, or how the White Witch actually uses magic. It's not really explained, but the fact that it has magic makes it cool, but you don't really know how it works, and so that's what it is. Harry Potter is a perfect example of a hybrid, because we know a lot about all the magic and how it works. For example, the Patronus charm goes into a lot of detail about how to actually perform it, but there's so much about it that we don't know. The magic seems to be endless, seems to be an infinite amount about the magic that the readers just don't know about. Whereas Mistborn, we pretty much definitely know all of the things that cause the magic to happen. The second tip is to know where the magic comes from. What is the origin of the magic? What is the source? What is the source? The top of the river that flows down into the magic system. What is the source? I've said that several times now. What is the source? Does it come from the characters, their minds, their thoughts, or does it come from deep within the earth? J.R. Tolkien went into a lot of detail about the origins of the magic in Middle-earth, about the Valar and the gods, and how the ring was formed, and what the source of the ring's power is. In Mistborn, the magic comes from certain metals, and by burning certain metals, it releases magical power, but only certain people can use these metals. So another source of the magic is the actual people that can use the magic. In this case, only Mistborn and Mistings can use magic, and these kind of people are only found in the upper classes, in the nobility. And because of that, the origin of the magic is only in certain people as well. Wow! So it's biological, or there could be loads of other different sources of the magic. The third tip is to give the magic limitations. Brandon Sanderson said that the limitations of the magic are more interesting than the magic itself. Imagine a wizard who has no limitations, and his magic is not flawed in any way. He can basically defeat anyone and anything that comes his way. That would be very boring, because there would be nothing that could defeat it, and he would win, obviously, and so that would be no story, there would be no conflict. And by including limitations in your magic system, it increases the conflict 10 times 10-fold. It is basically the thing that causes conflict in a magical based story, because it forces the protagonist and all the characters to problem solve and to work out how to defeat the villain and how to get out of sticky situations that perhaps their magic can't totally do on its own, but they have to work out how to use their magic in order to get out of the situations.
How I'd beat him, I'd beat the dragon.
And think about if these limitations are more short-term or long-term. In Mistborn, a lot of the limitations are very short-term, because if you use the metals and burn the metals, then it improves certain abilities, but then it decreases others. For example, if you burn tin, then you have better eyesight and better hearing and better senses in general, but in battle it's probably a bad thing to have a better sense of touch, because that means that you have an increased sense of pain. So if you have a wound and you burn tin, then it increases the pain of that wound drastically, and that is a limitation of the magic, so it just adds another level of difficulty to using the magic. Whoa! And everybody loves another layer of difficulty, eh? And you can also think about how much damage the magic does, and is the damage short-term or long-term? For example, in Lord of the Rings, when Frodo was pierced by the Morgul blade, a shard of the Morgul blade stuck in his shoulder, and then it slowly worked his way towards his heart throughout the journey. And because of that, it created a lot of long-term pain for him.
Yeah, I don't know. on.
Tip number 4 is to think about how the magic looks visually. How does it look visually, baby? How does it pop out of the page? If you think about your favorite magical films, about how they look visually, aim to create a magic system that is equally, if not more, visually stimulating in your stories. Harry Potter is, of course, one of the most visually, aesthetically pleasing magic systems. And if you can create a magic system that has like colors, or it has just sparks, or the way that you use the magic to fight is elegant and beautiful, like the elves, even though the elves don't use magic, but you know what I mean. And so this is an excellent way to make it stand out from other stories. Tip number 5 is to think about how the magic is ingrained in the culture, because every place has a culture, right? Right? Am I right? Am I right? Yep, I'm right. How is the magic ingrained in the culture of the world? Is it seen as acceptable to use magic? Is it only used by people in certain power? Or is it used by people who are the weakest in the society? Most commonly in magic-based stories, the villain has an incredible amount of magical power, and he uses that magical power to establish ultimate control over everyone for a certain amount of time until the protagonist rises up to defeat the villain. Oh yes, it always happens, doesn't it?
Nugget of weapons.
Or is the magic only used by people in lower classes because the people who are richer and perhaps more physically powerful are scared of the magic and oppress them?
Leave Matilda. Ooh. Oh no! What are you doing?
Pooh! 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 You're a bad boy! You've been a bad boy!
I've been a bad boy.
Like they're being prejudiced towards them simply because they have magic. Like in the Middle Ages when witches were killed. Is it punishable by death? So think about how your magic system is infused with the culture and what people think about it. And Harry Potter is obviously very hidden in the Muggle world, and the Dursleys hate magic and they have a very negative view towards magic. And so here's a quick summary to create a killer magic system. Oh yeah. The first one is to decide whether you want a soft or hard magic system, and to probably use a softer magic system if you want to create more problems with the magic, and to use a harder magic system if you want to solve the problems, or to use a hybrid if you want to do both. The second tip is to know the origin of the magic, to know where it comes from. Does it come from the earth? Or was it brought in from another world? Or can only certain people use the magic? The third tip is to give the magic limitations, because the limitations of the magic are more interesting than the magic itself. The fourth tip is to think about how the magic looks visually, and if it's your style, to make it as visually stimulating as possible. And the fifth tip is to think about how the magic is ingrained in the culture, how do people respond to the magic, and what kind of people generally use the magic. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and comment what is your favorite magic system of all time, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.
Oh yeah, look how cool I am.